The alliance between Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki, a partnership that once seemed unbreakable, once hailed across the globe for ending decades of bitter hostility and ushering in an era of cooperation, is now, alarmingly, unraveling at the seams. The initial promise of unity and shared prosperity is fading fast. Their partnership, initially forged in the crucible of conflict to defeat the Tigray People's Liberation Front, a common enemy at the time, has, in a relatively short period, given way to deep-seated suspicion and mistrust, and increasingly public disputes, signaling a significant fracture in their relationship. The November 2022 Pretoria Agreement, intended to bring a definitive end to the Tigray War, pointedly excluded Eritrea from the negotiation table, leaving President Isaias feeling profoundly betrayed, isolated, and sidelined from a process that directly impacted his nation's security. Furthermore, Ethiopia's increasingly vocal quest for guaranteed seaport access now clashes directly with Eritrea's fierce and unwavering protection of its coastline and territorial integrity, rapidly turning former allies into wary rivals, each eyeing the other with growing suspicion. Compounding these issues is the persistent internal instability within the Tigray region, alongside mutual accusations of interference in each other's internal affairs, which have only served to deepen the already significant divide between the two nations, making any prospect of genuine dialogue and reconciliation seem, at present, nearly impossible to achieve. The once celebrated alliance that once promised a lasting peace and stability for the region is now, worryingly, a significant source of instability and heightened tension, threatening to plunge the already fragile Horn of Africa back into a deeper and more widespread crisis. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's very public demand for access to a Red Sea port has rapidly become a major flashpoint in the region, raising tensions and sparking debate. Ethiopia frames its demand as both a historical right, rooted in past access, and an economic necessity for its growing nation. Abiy's hints at exploring other options, should negotiations fail to secure port access, have understandably alarmed Eritrea, which views any compromise regarding its Red Sea ports as an existential threat to its sovereignty and economic stability. Furthermore, Eritrea's exclusion from the Pretoria Agreement, despite its significant involvement in the Tigray War, has only fueled existing resentment and deep-seated mistrust between the nations. The Pretoria deal's mandate for the withdrawal of Eritrean troops from Tigray, without providing concrete security guarantees for Eritrea, has left Asmara feeling strategically exposed, politically sidelined, and ultimately, used and abandoned by the international community. Critically, no framework was established within the agreement to address Eritrea's legitimate security concerns or to define its future relationship with the Tigray region. This omission has left the core disputes within the region dangerously unresolved, creating a breeding ground for future conflict. The level of distrust is now so profound that even the most basic diplomatic engagement between the key players has become nearly impossible to achieve. Consequently, the unresolved port access issue, coupled with these persistent diplomatic snubs, has left the entire region teetering on the edge of instability, with both sides digging in their heels and preparing for the worst. Tigray's political landscape is fractured, undermining the fragile peace. The Pretoria Agreement's interim regional administration faces fierce opposition from hardline Tigrayan commanders who reject the deal as a betrayal. In early 2025, these hardliners staged an attempted coup, seizing territory and exposing deep divisions within Tigray. Some hardliners have reportedly forged ties with Eritrea, which seeks to exploit Tigray's instability to pressure Addis Ababa and disrupt the peace process. This alliance of convenience further destabilizes the region, creating a security vacuum. Religious leaders have called for reconciliation, but their influence is limited amid entrenched political and military rivalries. Tigray's internal strife now serves as a proxy battleground for the wider Ethiopia-Eritrea rivalry. Addis Ababa and Asmara find themselves entangled in a complex web of mutual suspicion. Decades of mistrust and unresolved grievances continue to fuel this tense dynamic. Each nation is quick to point fingers, accusing the other of engaging in interference and destabilization efforts. These accusations often escalate into diplomatic confrontations. Ethiopia alleges that Eritrea is actively providing support to Tigrayan hardliners and various other opposition groups operating within its borders. The Ethiopian government believes that Eritrea's actions are a deliberate attempt to weaken Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's administration. Eritrea, not to be outdone, retaliates with counter-accusations, alleging that Ethiopia is actively plotting to destabilize President Isaias Afwerki's regime. They claim Ethiopia is working to foment dissent within Eritrea, stirring up internal conflict and unrest. This toxic feedback loop, fueled by mutual distrust, creates an environment where both sides feel justified in taking preemptive actions. This escalates tensions along the border and significantly increases the risk of miscalculation, potentially leading to a larger conflict. The lack of reliable and open communication channels means that rumors, suspicions, and misinformation often drive policy decisions on both sides. This dangerous dynamic heightens the overall risk of a full-blown conflict, threatening regional stability. The ongoing turmoil in the Tigray region has unfortunately become a proxy for this broader power struggle between Ethiopia and Eritrea. This situation is particularly devastating for the Tigrayan people, who find themselves trapped between the ambitions of these rival powers. The already fragile peace in the Horn of Africa is now further threatened by these persistent regional rivalries. All of this unfolds under the ever-present shadow of interference, with each side suspecting the other of covert operations and dark influence. With tensions rising and mistrust deepening, hopes for lasting peace in the Horn of Africa are fading. The Pretoria Agreement's shortcomings, unresolved territories, lack of reconciliation, and Eritrea's exclusion have left the peace process incomplete. Experts urge a new, inclusive diplomatic effort, directly involving Ethiopia and Eritrea, mediated by a neutral regional body. Internal reconciliation within Tigray is equally urgent, requiring genuine dialogue to bridge divides and prevent further proxy conflict. Without decisive action, the region risks sliding back into catastrophic war, with devastating humanitarian and economic consequences. The window for peaceful resolution is closing fast. Only bold leadership and sustained international mediation can pull the region back from the brink.